Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today you'll notice I am not on my boat. We actually have another special guest for today's video, and we're going to be talking about my 3 favorite baits for August bass fishing. Summer is almost over. We're about to start working into the fall transition that usually happens in about September up here in Pennsylvania. So these are going to be the last baits that I throw throughout the summer before we start going into that fall transition and throwing some different type of baits when the fish start making a move later this year. So let's talk about how to catch some of the toughest fish of the year. August is probably one of the hardest months of the year to fish, especially up here in the Northeast. These fish get pounded, and we have a couple tricks up our sleeve on how to catch some fish, the last remaining ones of summer, even though they've received a ton of pressure. So let's get right into it. So my first bait for August is going to be a Texas rig, but we're going to do a couple things with our Texas rig here to actually help us catch a couple more fish. Most importantly, we're going to talk about the area that we're actually going to fish this in. This is going to be a grass fishing bait. We're going to be using it whether you have matted grass, you have shallower grass that's up to the surface, or even some deeper grass that's topped out as well. I love flipping grass this time of year, whether you're punching it or flipping some deeper edges. That's what I'm going to be doing. You're not going to get as many bites doing this, but typically this is going to catch your bigger fish of August. And a couple things that I'm going to do with my Texas rig to make sure I'm catching more fish. I'm always going to have a peg on this. I'm either going to use 20-pound straight fluorocarbon, or I'm going to go 65-pound braid, depending on how thick the grass is. You're going to be flipping very, very heavy cover with this. In the summer, the water gets hot. Those fish either need shade or they need some deeper water to stay cool, and then they need places for bait to be as well, and there's always bait in grass. So those places, punching, that's the shade that they need. It's going to have more oxygenated and cooler water. So we're going to be fishing heavy cover. This is a 1/2 ounce weight that I have on here today, but I'm going to throw anything from a 1/2 ounce all the way up to 1.5 ounce weight. That's usually my go-to. And then I have a 4/0 ox flipping hook from 6 cents here, and then this is a 6 cents prawn or any type of beaver, whatever you feel like using. The stroker craw is another excellent one, but I like a bait that has no appendages. It's going to fall through those pieces of cover a lot better. You're going to get that heavy weight, get it through the cover, get it down to those fish, and you're just trying to create a reaction bite. Like I said, you're not going to catch many fish doing this, but you're going to get some bigger bites by doing that reaction bite. And all this is you're going to make your bait fall super fast. That's why you need the heavy weight. Usually 1/2 ounce is the lightest I will go. Most of the times I'm going 3/4 or 1 ounce, anything less than 10 foot of water. Anything deeper than 10 foot of water or heavier cover, I'm gonna go up to that 1.5 ounce weight and really put it through that cover. Oftentimes these fish are also eating bluegill in these areas, so the type of colors that I'm gonna be using are like this color here, green pumpkin burst. It's an excellent color to catch fish feeding on bluegills. It has a lot of glitter to it, but it also has that green pumpkin base. A black and blue is always good if you have some dirtier water. And then there's a color called Nirvana from 6 cents. It's half black and blue, half green pumpkin. It really mimics the bluegill well. Or if you're not really sure what color to throw, it's an excellent choice because it can cover both ends of the spectrum there. So that's going to be my setup for this. For my rod, try to use like a jig rod is what I usually use. If I'm flipping the deeper grass that's not matted and I'm not punching, I'll just use my jig rod, so a 7'3" heavy action. If I'm flipping matted cover, that's when I'm going to go to like a 7'6" or a 7'11" punching rod, and I'm really going to put it through that cover. And then I'll always have a 7:3 to 1 gear ratio reel to pick up that line really fast when these fish eat it and swim right at you. So let's get into the second bait, more of a finesse fishing style for when these fish are really not cooperating. So my second pick for August bass fishing, we're going to get away from those deep fish. They've been getting pounded with deep crankbaits, Carolina rigs, all that kind of stuff offshore. A lot of those fish are going to start to learn by August. You're going to have some other fish that stay shallow all summer long and sometimes are forgotten about because people are too busy fishing offshore. And we're going to start throwing a Senko. It's a super simple way to catch fish. It's not a very advanced bait at all, and it's no secret that it catches fish. But in August, the Senko does excellent because all those fish offshore are receiving pressure. You can catch some of those few remaining resident fish with a Wacky Rig or a Texas rig, depending on your cover. My favorite is the Wacky Rig. I throw 8-pound test leader to 10-pound test braid on a 7-foot medium spinning rod, and then I just use a VMC size 2 weedless Nico hook, an O-ring, and then your favorite Senko. I like either the Gary Yamamoto's. They're very dense, they sink properly and have a good fall rate to get those fish to bite. Or another one that's really good is also the 6 cents Clout as well. Same thing with colors. These fish are feeding on bluegills up shallow if you're catching them on a Wacky Rig. Green pumpkin burst, watermelon red, regular green pumpkin, any of those colors are gonna work awesome. If you'd like to check out any of these 6th Sense products, there is a code. My code is Quince. You'll save 10% on your entire order, and you'll be helping out the channel a ton if you make a purchase there on 6th Sense. Places I'm gonna fish this Wacky Rig to get bites is going to be docks. Is my #1 place I'm gonna throw this. You have shade and you have food. Same thing with the grass. That's what those fish are looking for. They want to stay in an area where they don't have to go far to eat something, but they also have cooler oxygenated water, so they're not burning up in the sun up there. So they're gonna hide under the shadiest docks you can find. You can usually pick out the highest percentage targets. They'll have plenty of cover. Skip it as far under that dock as you can and just let it sink slowly. Those denser Senkos are gonna do the work. They're gonna sink down there, draw those fish in. You're just gonna get a lot of bites doing it. You may not catch the biggest fish doing this. Sometimes, if you find the right stretch of docks, whether there be bluegill beds or there's just a lot of bait in those areas, you might catch some big ones doing it. But oftentimes this is gonna be a numbers game, and hopefully you'll luck into some big ones, or if you just have a lake that's fishing really, really tough. This also works on weed edges. It'll work on wood if you have laydowns that fish are hiding on. Anything you can find. I just like to go after those shallow resident fish in August with a very finesse bait that just absolutely gets bites whenever I need it to get a bite. So this is one of my favorites for August bass fishing. I'll always have a Senko tied on throughout the month of August. All right, so now we'll jump into bait #3. It's not gonna be me giving you my bait this time. We got some extra input on the channel. We have John back from Fight for Your Right Fishing. We're gonna have him jump on, give you his favorite bait for bait #3. We're out here fishing today and we have been pounding them. So he's gonna walk you through his favorite bait, which also happens to be one of the baits that we're catching on with today.
What's going on, guys? Like Quince said, we're out on the water today and we have been putting on an absolute clinic. And it is summertime, which is one of my absolute favorite times of the year to fish, but it can also be very difficult for you guys if you don't know what to throw. So he's already covered 2 really awesome baits. The one that I'd like to bring in is gonna be a drop shot. It is kind of an oversimplified technique, but it works amazing when it comes to these summertime pressured fish. You know, we have a lot of pressure out there because the weather's nice, and you can go right behind other anglers with this bait and catch a ton of fish. So I'm gonna be throwing this going down grass lines. You can even use it on docks. You can pretty much throw it everywhere that gets a lot of pressure. I'm gonna be throwing it on a 7.3 medium heavy because a lot of times we're getting into that thick grass, you need to pull them out of it. Now for you smallmouth guys, you can throw it on a little bit lighter rod, like a 7.1 medium fast. I'm gonna be using a braid in 10-pound to a 12-pound or a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader, just because, like I said, I wanna be able to get those fish out of that grass. And the bait that I like to throw, especially when I'm going down grass lines, is just a pink worm of your choice. I like a robo worm right here, but I'm gonna be pairing that with a 1/4 ounce weight with a 1/0 VMC hook, because what that's gonna do is I can Texas rig that bait and really keep it weedless as I'm going through there. And this, like I said, this just allows me to go behind other anglers on these pressured waters and just catch fish that haven't been seeing it. It's a super finesse presentation, so I'm gonna throw it out there. And unlike a lot of other baits, I'm really gonna put no action into it. I'm just gonna cast it out, let it hit the bottom with a nice 1/4 ounce fall. It's gonna drag it right nice and slow along that bottom, and you'll feel it going through the grass and whatnot. And those fish will just come up, they'll grab it, and you'll hook them, and that's when you can get them to the boat. And you can really catch a lot of numbers, and you can even catch some absolute giants throwing this bait. So that is my pick for August bass fishing.
So I hope you guys enjoyed John being on the channel again. For those of you that don't know, he is a professional fisherman on the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. He just made the tour, he'll be fishing it next year, and he's an up and coming YouTuber, and he makes a lot of content just like me. I'll leave his channel link down below, and if you want to check it out, he will have plenty of fishing tips as well, learning them from a pro. And also, if you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and check this one out if you want to see July baits. Those ones will also work in August as well. They just start to get a little bit more pressure. Leave that like down below and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more of my fishing videos coming up.